Danny Bonsignor, and I am so thankful you are here today. I pray that I can help encourage you to feel, to love, to heal, and to help encourage you to view all of your experiences, your conversations, and interactions all through a lens of love. Hello, and welcome to episode 19 of the Healing Mama podcast. I am so happy to have you here today, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little nervous for today's episode because this is a very hot topic amongst parents and just different generations and in the church. However, I also feel it is very important that we talk about it, and it's a topic that deserves more understanding. So, let's get into it. Is spanking good for your child? Is it good for their developing brains, for the growth of their faith? Is it good for your relationship and the overall well-being of your children? Not just as children, but also as adults. I know, you turned out fine, right? But why has fine become our standard for living and our reasoning for not questioning our discipline methods? Fine may have been good enough for the generations before us, but it's time we up our standard of living and teach our children to thrive. How is causing your child physical pain the only way to teach them a lesson? What really intrigued me was learning that spanking doesn't actually teach your child anything about the lesson. It teaches them to fear you, not the consequences of the situation. You might have heard someone say before that they want their child to fear them. I don't want my child to fear me. I want them to have the fear of God, and this is different from the fear parents are placing in their children with the use of spanking and other harsh disciplines. If their fear is negatively placed in you, what are you teaching them that they will be able to use in adulthood, which they will spend most of their lives as adults? So how are we ensuring that we are setting them up for success? Spanking is neither teaching nor training, but a reaction from you, the parent, that stems from fear, worry, or frustration. It's common to hear spanking advocated by Scripture. Proverbs 13:24 says, "He who spares the rod hates his son." Yes, God tells us we must discipline our children, but He does not say we must hit them with the rod. The rod was used to guide sheep and keep them on the correct path, not strike the sheep or beat them. Psalm 23:4 reads, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadows of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." The rod, which, depending on your generation, your parents may have used a wooden spoon, their parents may have used a stick, or any of them their hand, but either way, the rod was not supposed to inflict harm. The rod was used for guidance, and discipline means to teach. From Proverbs, we learn the emphasis is on verbal encouragement and teaching. Proverbs teaches us that parents and children are not meant to be adversaries, but allies in life who are proud of each other. Proverbs 3:12 reads, "The Lord disciplines those He loves. As a father, the son He delights in." Whenever have you or your child felt delighted by a good spanking? Where spanking can teach our children shame and lower self-esteem, there is another way, the positive discipline way that teaches respect, cooperation, and self-discipline that is better in alignment with our God, who is a God of grace and compassion as well as law. Where discipline is intended to teach, spanking is intended to hurt. As I was reading Positive Discipline in the Christian Home, one of the questions they got while speaking with different children was, how can God love me and still want my parents to hurt me? This really caused me to pause because children are not viewing your spankings as you, an adult, are viewing your spankings. At times, children are more wise than adults. How can we preach to our children that the same God who loves them endlessly also wants us to hit them? The way we are choosing to discipline our children can grow their faith or interfere with their faith. As a mom, I am constantly praying that God gives me the wisdom to discipline my daughter and draw her nearer to God. James 2:17 says, "In the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead." If our words of God's love for our children are not reflected in our actions, it is understandable if our children grow to question their faith. But you might be wondering, if you aren't spanking, then what is there to do other than just letting your child do whatever they want? I'm happy you're tuning in today because we are going to talk about just that. A common misconception when you hear the word positive in front of discipline is that there is no discipline. You can provide discipline in other ways that don't cause physical and emotional pain to your child, and that helps them to strengthen their faith, not interfere with it. While spanking is considered disrespectful to your child, permissiveness, which is the word for just letting your child do whatever they want, is also disrespectful. You might hear the word positive and think there is no discipline. But God does call us to discipline our children, right? Proverbs 23, verse 13 through 14 reads, "Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you punish them with the rod, they will not die. Punish them with the rod and save them from death." I can understand how this verse can be misconstrued if you do not know that the rod was used as a tool for correction and not abuse. God does call us to correct our children. Your toddler has to be taught not to run into the street, but this does not mean the teaching is abusive. Proverbs 19 verse 18 reads, "Discipline your children, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to their death." Discipline is an important means to help save your child from sin, but discipline also leads to hope. So the way that we discipline is meant to provide hope. This is so encouraging to me. Spanking your child can cause them to feel doubt, shame, and guilt both now and in the future. I would even ask you if you have ever felt these same feelings after delivering a spanking. Spanking can lead to the 4 R's of punishment. These are resentment, rebellion, revenge, and retreat, either through sneakiness, "I just won't get caught next time," or low self-esteem, "I really am a bad person." There have been studies done on the brain when punishment is used and has proven to show that it disrupts optimal brain development. Let's discuss the impact and the alternatives to spanking for children aged 1 through 3, because I do think that this is probably the more common age that you would be likely to deliver a spanking. Spanking interferes with our child's autonomy. This is their independence or freedom, having the will of one's actions. Children need a balance of autonomy and healthy dependence on you as a parent. They need room to discover their own capabilities. Knowing that spanking takes away their ability to do just that is something to take into consideration when choosing your discipline methods. Punishment, and today we are just focusing on spanking, but this can also look like taking away things your child loves, time out, or threats, all of which can create defiance, rebellion, and power struggles. And more than that, punishing children for doing developmentally appropriate things fosters doubt and shame. Children between the ages of 1 and 3 are not able to fully understand consequences yet, so they don't even relate spanking with the lesson you are trying to teach. In essence, we are just spanking to spank. Slapping your child's hand for touching something they weren't supposed to doesn't help your toddler because they don't understand the connection between the two. I remember when my daughter, who is now 3.5, but at the time was 1, maybe 2, and we went on a lot of walks. Okay, so it was definitely after she turned 1 because she didn't walk until a little bit after. But at some point, she decided she would try and run into the street. Every time we were by a street, it's like her brain was like, run. Now, I had already learned some positive discipline methods at this point, so I knew that spanking was not going to help her learn the danger of running into the street. So what did I do? What did this look like? It looked like me gently guiding her away from the street over and over and over again. There were times when I wondered if this was truly the right thing to do because time and time again she tried to run back into the street. But at that age, she is also needing constant supervision, so the goal was not to make her fear my reaction to her running into the street. The ultimate goal was to teach her why she couldn't run into the street. However, she was not developmentally old enough to be able to understand this, so I had to gently guide her away over and over, or put her in a space where she could play without the danger of passing cars. There was a lot of guiding and redirecting because at that age, there is not much else that you can do. Fast forward to now, she's a 3.5-year-old who better understands the why behind not running in the street. She can be trusted on the sidewalk without fear of her bolting into the street, and after being shown over and over and continually given the opportunity to practice under my supervision, she now looks both ways before crossing. Because she is only 3.5, crossing the street does still require supervision, and that will stay true until she is older. But it is normal for children to explore, to experiment, and to test the rules. So as a parent, we have to ask ourselves, how can we foster this curiosity? When it comes to crossing the street, we can ask questions that invite thinking and participation. Questions like, do you see any cars coming? Or what do we do before we cross the street? These invite our children to learn and be involved, which is also way more fun for them. The reason spanking is not an optimal decision is because it is short term. Spanking to stop a behavior such as running in the street usually just stops the behavior in the presence of the parent for fear of the parent, not fear of the situation, like possibly getting hit by a car. So, what can you do? Under the age of 3, there are a few alternatives which can be helpful when children are under the age of reasoning. 1. Supervision. Always be there to ensure their safety or put them in a safe space where something like running into the street is not possible. 2. Distraction. Giving them something to do that keeps them busy. And 3, redirection, directing them towards something they can do. No matter how smart you think your child is, children under the age of 3 cannot understand the reasoning behind punishment. Removing them from what they can't do and guiding them to something they can do is more effective than using a harsh punishment such as spanking. The nature of having young children is them needing constant supervision along with distraction and or redirection. This is not forever, but if your children are young, then this is your season. This is your time to shine. I remember telling myself when my daughter was younger, and even now for certain things, this is just a phase. This is not forever. Please, God, don't let this be forever. Grace and redirection over and over is exactly what I am supposed to be doing. The beautiful thing is that you always have a choice. You can choose recurring redirection with kindness and firmness or recurring punishment. Either way, both will be recurring and both will have an impact on your child. The way we choose to discipline our child, especially while they are learning about who they are, can either teach them to think, I am loved, I am competent, I am a good person, or I'm not good, I'm not capable, I shouldn't take risks. If your child is 2.5 or younger, time out or isolating them alone should not be done alone. Going with them, suggesting listening to music or reading a book together until the feelings have passed are both options that don't require spanking or isolation, while also helping the child to stop doing whatever it is that you think requires punishment. Part of proper discipline is knowing developmental and age-appropriate behavior so your expectations don't exceed the developmental capability of your child. It is not possible for positive learning to take place in a threatening atmosphere. Children aged 3 to 5 learn respect by experiencing it. Children who are treated with disrespect are likely to return the favor, whether it be now or later. Children are not able to listen when they are feeling scared, hurt, or angry. When threatened, they are more likely to feel defensive. Defensive behavior may look like compliance, so you feel like it's working, rebellion, or both. And I would just like to say, even as an adult, it's hard to listen when you are feeling scared, hurt, or angry. And when you feel threatened, you feel defensive. You feel like going against whatever is happening because you are in a defensive state and you are not thinking clearly. This is when positive timeout may be an effective approach. But that will have to be something that we discuss in a future episode, because positive timeout is so good and I'm really excited to talk about that. But for now, I will leave you with 4 things that children need just to have present in your mind, fresh, and just something that you can think about. 1, children need connection. They need a sense of belonging and significance. 2, children need capability. They need a sense of personal power and autonomy. 3, children need contribution. They need social and life skills and the ability to develop these. 4, they need dignity and respect. And this can look like kind and firm discipline. We have been gifted our children to lovingly guide and teach. We want them to feel encouraged and empowered. We want to raise faithful, capable, and confident members of the kingdom. Let's start by disciplining them the way God intended and let go of old ideas surrounding discipline that have been misconstrued through generations. Our parents and their parents and their parents, they were all doing the best they could with what they knew, but we know better. And what an honor it is to have the chance to do better. I hope you gained something of value from this episode. I know spanking is a very sensitive subject, and it can be hard to change your thinking on it, but know that if you did spank or you were spanked, this does not make you or your parents bad parents, and maybe you did turn out fine. But is that a risk you want to take with your children and the generations to come? closing today, I encourage you to pray on this. Spend time and ask God for guidance and wisdom on the subject. I'd love to hear your thoughts and the ways He answers you. Until next time.